Hello, today we'll be learning about CEI. Again, this is that flipped classroom model where I want you to review this before we get to class. So it's kind of already in your brain. And then once we get to class, I'm going to go through this again in more detail, more depth, and then we'll practice all together using theme. So CEI, some of us may know what this means and some of us may not. That's why I'm here to explain. So CEI stands for Claim, Evidence, Interpretation, and it is a strategy for developing and supporting an argument. Use this strategy to write thorough body paragraphs by following the format on the next slides. So the C again stands for claim. It is a statement which expresses a single arguable idea. This is what you will prove in your paragraph. You cannot use I in your claim because this is not an opinion, but an arguable idea based on factual evidence. Your evidence are specific examples or details from the text that support the claim. You can't drop a quote, so we want to make sure that every time we introduce a quote or example from the text, we give it a sentence starter. Interpretation is an analysis of how the evidence supports your claim. Use verbs like shows that, illustrates, demonstrates, reveals to clearly explain the connection. And I provided you with some sentence starters down below. So here's an example of a literary analysis using CEI format. So the bold part is the claim. So it says, without the example set by Atticus, Scout and Jem would never have learned the value of empathy. Okay, the evidence, so that's their claim, is that Scout and Jem would never have learned the value of empathy. So being able to empathize with another person. Then the evidence, so the E, Atticus first teaches Scout empathy when she becomes frustrated with school and her teacher. When Atticus sits Scout down and tries to help her deal with her frustration, he says, "You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it." Okay, so notice that we introduce the quote by saying he says, and we also give it the page number and we wrap the text in quotes. So that would be our evidence. The interpretation is how you interpret the quote or the evidence from the text to support your claim. So this person writes, "This statement illustrates Atticus's belief that although it may be complicated for children to understand, the ability to understand others is an important value for children, and it is a necessary quality to teach at a young age. Furthermore, both Scout and the reader begin to understand what empathy means in the world of the novel." And then we continue that same claim, evidence, interpretation again. There's another example in the sample paragraph number 2, making an argument. And then here we have the CEI argumentative paragraph rubric. So it's based on a 4-point scale, and you can see that for each claim, evidence, and interpretation, you will be evaluated on the effectiveness of your writing, the organization. So do you have it in the correct order? And then conventions. So spelling, punctuation, grammar, and capitalization. I know this format may seem overwhelming, especially to those of us who it's new to, but I promise you next class we will go over this in much more detail and we will have a chance to try it out all together. So, thank you guys for listening and I will see you next class.